हे एवरीवन, वेलकम टू अनदर पॉडकास्ट फॉर करियर सीरीज फॉर स्टूडेंट्स। आज हम इस पॉडकास्ट में लाए एक बहुत ही स्पेशल गेस्ट को, प्रत्युष राय। ही इज माय सीनियर आल्सो एंड अलमनस ऑफ आईआईटी कानपुर। इफ यू टॉक अबाउट हिज क्रेडेंशियल्स, तो उन्होंने बीसीजी में काम किया एज अ कंसल्टेंट एंड राइट नाउ ही इज रनिंग अ स्टार्टअप। कॉलेज लाइफ में भी बहुत ज़्यादा उन्होंने एक्टिवली इन्वॉल्व थे इन स्टूडेंट पॉलिटिक्स ऑल्सो। सो ही हैज़ अ लॉट टू शेयर विथ यू ऑल। सो लेट्स गेट इनटू इट।
Why is consulting desired by so many people? ऐसा कंसल्टिंग में है क्या कि पीपल आर गोइंग इनटू आईएम्स एंड देन गोइंग आफ्टर कंसल्टेंसी, या फिर डायरेक्टली यहाँ पे भी आईटीज में इफ पॉसिबल तो लोग कंसल्टेंसी में जाना चाहते हैं। सो
हाँ.
ऐसा क्या रीजन है, क्या जादू है वहाँ पे?
For most people, the first job which they get, it is sort of like a stepping stone for their career. Like, just direction mein, whenever someone starts in a particular, sector, let's say finance mein kar raha hai, then broadly, their career will, for 5 years at least, will evolve more towards finance. Or unless and until someone does a master's or an MBA, उनका career उसी से एक sector में काफी हद तक sort of stick हो जाता है. अब ये है कि कंसल्टिंग उस लेवल में बहुत ही अच्छा साइट सॉर्ट ऑफ एक प्लेटफॉर्म दे देता है कि you get to have some general skill set which is going to be applicable across a lot of different types of careers. Like, so that's what is the core USP of consulting. It's like a stepping stone for people to to sort of understand various careers, to spend time getting some general skill set which is going to be very valuable across different kinds of careers. So it's sort of like a very live MBA program, if you ask me. Like, because a lot of the things जो लोग consulting में करते हैं, that is actually something which people are supposed to learn doing an MBA, in terms of both designing strategies, ensuring execution, and even very very fundamental things like how do you prioritize tasks, how do you communicate with different kinds of stakeholders, and a lot of the different things like which is supposed to be taught at MBA.
अच्छा, सो देयर इज वन मोर थिंग कि
जैसे लोगों का फिगर आउट नहीं होता कि करना क्या लाइफ में, सो जनरली आफ्टर
हाँ.
ग्रेजुएशन दे गो फॉर आईएम्स बिकॉज उनको लगता है वहां कुछ मिल जाएगा, कि दे विल
हाँ.
गेट समथिंग देयर। फिर वहां भी कुछ नहीं समझ में आता, तो उसके बाद दे गोइंग टू कंसल्टिंग, कि वहां पे एटलीस्ट डिफरेंट इंडस्ट्रीज का एक्सपोजर मिलेगा मेरे को, तो वहां पे मुझे समझ में आएगा फ्यूचर में क्या करना है। So how is
हाँ.
this thing going? I mean, people go for MBA, then consultancy, then they go for a startup doing something on their own. So how is this thing, I mean, helpful?
In my opinion, if someone is able to experiment fast and figure it out faster that what they want to do in the long term, it's always better. MBA karna also provides that platform for getting exposure into different sectors, and then choosing one of the sectors which you want to spend your long part of career in. But and that is also true for consulting. But then the point is that how much time are you willing to dedicate? Like 2 years of an MBA, 2 years of, let's say, consulting, followed by that, how much time? Like, so I would always say that if you do not have an understanding what you want to do, then of course, like, it makes sense to experiment one by one, make a list of all the things you want to do, experiment karna shuru kar do ek ek karke. But then if you actually get some kind of an inclination ki ha yaar yahan pe kuch, there's something which you actually, this is something which you actually enjoy, so why not spend a large part of your life actually doing it, being good at it, and making a career out of it. And another thing is that yes, MBA and consulting do give a general platform for a lot of industries, but it's not like it's for all industries. So for example, you can get exposure to a lot of roles which are there post a management type of a job, like finance, consulting, investment banking, product management. A lot of these roles are practically open, but then this is not the entire spectrum of roles, right? Matlab, let's say you have a very good technical background, you are very good at let's say designing, or you are very good at, let's say, coding, and then you get some kind of managerial experience, then your value proposition to a lot of companies is going to be slightly different. And let's say if you're a designer and you're more into management, then your value proposition can be slightly more different. So there are a lot of these kind of careers also there, like which are not very typical, which people cannot see कि हाँ मैं यहाँ पे IIM X में जाऊँ, उसके बाद मैं कुछ X कंसल्टिंग फर्म में जाऊँ, उसके बाद मैं कुछ ऐसा रोल करूँ, तब मेरे को ये रोल मिलेगा. इट्स नॉट लाइक दैट. तो एक पॉइंट के बाद लोग को अपने खुद के कैरियर्स खुद के हिसाब से कार्व आउट करने पड़ते हैं, एंड इट्स ऑलवेज बेटर टू डू दैट, बिकॉज उसमें फिर तुम exactly वही चीज कर रहे होगे जो चीज like you actually want to do, like you are not spending a lot of time doing things you don't want.
ट्रू. सो जैसा आपने बोला कि आई मीन मेकिंग अ कस्टम करियर फॉर यू, मतलब जनरली
Yeah.
व्हाट वी जनरली डू कि हमको पता है कि ये लीनियर पाथ वगैरह दिया होता है, कॉलेज ने टेम्पलेट दिया होता है, डू दिस एंड यू विल बी डूइंग समथिंग लाइक दिस. बट जस्ट लाइक यू सेड कि यस देयर आर सो मेनी पॉसिबिलिटीज, आप ये करो ये करो ये करो एंड यू लैंड समवेयर गुड, है ना. लाइफ में तो
Yes.
हर कोई अच्छा है, कुछ ना कुछ करेगा ही करेगा.
And I think अगर तुम ऐसे पॉप एडवाइस भी देखो जो पूरे वर्ल्ड में ऐसे पॉपुलर है, like it's always like this, that if you, there are two ways, either you love what you work on or you work on what you love, एक sense में.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
in both ways you can try to discover that kind of a career, but ऐसा मत expect करना कि like society will come and give it on your plate, क्योंकि these are the things you should do, and this is what you should love on. Like it's much better always to try to discover for yourself by doing it, and then deciding for yourself on whether it is the right fit for you or not. So like there is one batchmate of mine who was into design, and then he actually started off his career into product design, like right now he's moving into product management from a design point of view. Now this is a very atypical career because बहुत ही कम ऐसे लोग मार्केट में हैं जिनका इंजीनियरिंग बैकग्राउंड है and who have made a career out of design and then are entering product management from a design point of view. If you see, there are very very few people who have that kind of a background. Then I'll share another person, like he's not from IIT Kanpur, but he has been into crypto space for about 7 years now. Okay. Wow. And he did a lot of role which are not into crypto through operation side ke role in a lot of startups. He actually tried to do 2 crypto startups, did not work out, but now like these companies like CoinSwitch, Kuber and Coin DCX and all these companies are finding him as a very very right person to hire. Why? Because he has so much understanding about crypto, he has done operations work, and like there are extremely few people who have been into this industry and have that kind of a background. So like he's getting hired at a very senior role in these companies. In our college in second year, people are able to get internships, foreign internships, by just cold emailing faculty, and internships in startups and all by cold emailing people, right, or cold messaging people. Then if you can do that, then doing this is not that hard, like because for a second year student, you don't have anything on your resume, or you do not have any skill set, right? But then over time you develop things, and when you have that right skill set and you apply to a lot of these places, then people would also be very excited to hire you, because they know that you are a rare person. There are very few people who have that kind of a skill set as you are going to contribute, right? So थोड़ा सा faith होना भी जरूरी है कि like long term में सब चीजें अपने आप set कर जाएगी, and it always takes like about 10 years to make a career in anything, like whether it be consulting as well, right? In 2 years there's no career in consulting, like you get to understand basics and all, but you need to spend about 10 years to understand any industry inside out, and be in a position ki you can mold that industry at your whim. But for that kind of stuff, for spending 10 years, you need to enjoy that work. So either you do it from day one, or you do it from year 5. It's up to you, but it's always better to do it as early as you can.
अच्छा, so adding to this point only, आपने बोला कि it takes time to build career in anything. So I just wanted to know कि जैसे जो लोग 10 साल कंसल्टेंसी में लेट्स से काम करते हैं, so वो कहाँ पे होते हैं, where they stand, है ना? I mean pros and cons of working in this field for like so long years versus for someone who just goes into that field, explore करता है कि 1-2 साल काम किया है, इंडस्ट्री का एक्सपोजर मिल गया, and then he starts something on its own, तो कोई स्टार्टअप वगैरह शुरू कर लिया. So what are the pros and cons of these two things?
Yeah, of course. And I think the pros and cons are very straightforward. Like there's like always a risk reward sort of balance you're trying to make, right? If someone is continuing in consulting for 10 years, then practically they would be like a partner at that organization, or almost about to become a partner, depending on the hierarchy in that company, right? So like of course, like it's a very but as soon as you become a managing director and partner, you are practically a shareholder of that particular company. So it's a good position to be at, and you understand what is consulting. Your role is more towards sales. Itna problem solving heavy role nahi hota. Then like it's problem solving and case studies and all these kind of stuff. It's more for junior folks. When you become senior, your primary job is just to, you know, sell the problem, sell your team, and, you know, just try to onboard clients, try to, you know, make sure that you're solving the problems for the clients. Your team is solving the problem for that clients. So that's moreover what people 10 years down the line do on that side, and it's a fairly straightforward path because हर 2-2 साल में promotions रहते हैं, and like if you you know upskill at the right pace, then practically you would be able to make it. Like it's not a I mean the path is very well laid down. What you need to do to excel at that part is also laid down. So if you put in the right efforts, you'll practically get to that point. Like it's just you need to of course put in the right efforts over there. Now on the other side, like let's say on the startup side, you know, there's always a huge amount of risk. Even if you know you do your best work, right? Then also how the market is going to react after a point, how your you know customer needs are going to modify, how your competitors are going to react, and those kind of stuff. It definitely affects the system a lot. And you know it's a very practical reality that only 10% of startups actually work around, right? So so it depends on what kind of outcome do you expect out of your life. Like, you know, on one side there is fairly less risk, and I would say the reward is also fairly good. It's not very bad reward. Like, you know, a partner at a consulting firm is a good position to be at. But on the other side, there is a very fairly high risk, and the reward is also a very high reward, much higher reward if you are able to make it. But again, like if you're not able to make it, then the reward is also slightly lukewarm. If you see from a wealth generation point of view, or you know, something on those lines. But yeah, like on the other hand, this is something which I got to hear when I was leaving BCG. You know, that on the startup side, you know, because the risk is so deep, and because you know the stress is real. It's a real business. You know, your work is going to affect a lot of people. Like you know, people who have invested in you, who are working with you, your customers as well. It affects a lot of people. Then again, your quality of learning is also going to be far more steeper. It might be that, you know, I mean, any enterprise might fail, but you know, entrepreneurship as a whole, that process as a whole in the long term always teaches people a lot. Like it's never like that, you know, after 10-year period, there's an entrepreneur who comes out and he's like, yeah, मैंने अपने 10 साल life के waste कर दिए. No. It might be like in terms of their wealth generation, they are not able to do that, and it's a very fair outcome. I don't think you know, everyone should expect that they are landing up in that 10% zone. Like even after making a very decently big company, how things react at any stage is always going to be very you know, tricky. But in terms of learning, it is going to be definitely massive. And over time, like, you know, maybe not at your first attempt on doing a startup, but at a second, third, or fourth attempt, you definitely, you know, understand how things move. Like, you know, you definitely become good at you know, building businesses. And you know, that is something which you know, people at BCG also have a lot of respect on, that establishing businesses. You know, it's a very hard problem. It's not easy. You see all these people who have you know, made 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 crore business, and you know, even BCG, there are so many such companies who are clients of BCG, right? You see, you work with them, you see them, and you understand that, okay, this person, he is responsible for, you know, let's say a team of 500 manufacturing this, you know, these set of customers, and there's so much responsibility on their head that, you know, their work performance is going to affect so many people's life. Like it's not something which can be taken lightly, right? Whereas you know, for most individual contributor roles, or you know, it's not that much. It's that kind of stress is never there, that your work is going to affect, you know, other people's life so badly. So it's always there, like, you know, that risk is far more real, and of course reward is also far more bigger if you compare. But I mean, there's no right path in both of them. Like people can you know, optimize for what they actually prefer and what they expect out of their own life, and that's how they should look at it.
Great. अच्छा, so based on this, I have two questions for you, जो कि भी मेरे दिमाग में है. Because you have experienced both the lives, consultancy, and also you are an entrepreneur right now. आपका खुद का startup चल रहा है. So I just wanted to know two things. First is about the work-life balance, and second one is about the learning. So generally बोला जाता है कि, you know, when you are in consultancy, जो आपका 3 साल में, let's say आप यू नो लेट्स से किसी और रोल में होगे तो आप 3 साल में जो सीखोगे वो आप यहाँ पे 1 साल में सीख सकते हो, कंप्रेस करके, यू नो, बिकॉज दिस टू मच टू लर्न.
Yes.
एंड एंड देयर इज, यू नो, entrepreneurship में भी ये होता है, बिकॉज यू आर जस्ट लाइक अ, यू नो, वाइल्ड एनिमल रनिंग इन, आई मीन एनिमल
Yes.
रनिंग इन वाइल्ड. तो आप जितनी
Yeah.
इच्छा है उतना सीख सकते हो. इट डिपेंड्स टोटली ऑन यू. So this is
Yes.
my first question ki how do you compare the learnings here and here? And second thing is work life balance, because entrepreneurship is like a 24/7 job.
Yes.
Whereas in
Yes.
consultancy आप हो सकता है 12 13 14 घंटा दिन में काम करो, but you have
Yes.
your own life after that. So I just wanted
Yes.
to know you know, your opinion on these two things.
Yes. Yeah. So I think on the first part is more on the lines that how do you compare the learning, right?
Yeah.
So if you see, I mean, consulting may the learning is extremely steep in the first year, I would say, right? You know, because it's all so new. Like सब कुछ एकदम तुम्हें first time scratch से सीखना पड़ता है, and you're given so much responsibility in comparison to, you know, a lot of different jobs. You know, it's not like you're just a cog in the wheel. Like it's a far more, you know, I mean, your work is going to affect someone, like to some degree. It's not going to affect to a very large degree, but your work is going to affect someone or something, right? So वहाँ पे learning definitely होती है, like, you know, this kind of a stuff that people say that, you know, it's a 3-year experience compressed into 1 year. It's actually to a good extent true, because if you compare from a lot of other people I have talked to, like, you know, their job after a point is so stagnated that you know, they themselves feel that, you know, their learning is, you know, going down. Now that is also true in consulting, by the way. After let's say 2 or 3 years, and once you are, you know, very accustomed to the way in which things work, then, you know, your learning also tends to stagnate to some extent. But it's never like, you know, so stagnated that there is no excitement in your job. Like it's always going to be something which is going to be different. Like, you know, whether your client sector is going to be different, your you know, problem statement is going to be slightly different. So there's always going to be something which is going to be, you know, really new and exciting. So that's all there in consulting. Now in the startup side, it's all self-paced. So basically, how much ever you want to extract out of your, you know, learning experience, out of your limited time, you know, it's up to you. And I mean, you know, there are some founders who are able to you know, just learn so quickly that you know, it compounds in their you know, understanding of a particular sector. If you see, you know, there are so many companies founded by extremely young founders. Stripe was founded, you know, by practically teens, like they were 19, 20 years old when this started it. And you know, and Airbnb, where folks were also very young, and all these people were pretty young. But then what is their advantage is that, you know, their learning ability is so faster than, you know, let's say someone who is in the middle of their career, 35 or 40 years old. You know, that person, their stamina is low. They cannot, you know, do things faster. They cannot. They have so much information in their head that, you know, unlearning is going to be far harder for them. So I mean, overall, the advantage in startup is that if you are young and if you are energetic, then you can learn things extremely fast. Like, you know, it's completely self-paced. So that's also there. But again, like, you know, there's no one-to-one comparison between all these kind of stuff, because in consulting, the learning is also very you know, linear. Like you know that, okay, your role as an associate is going to be this, then as a consultant is going to be this, then as a project manager, project leader is going to be this. So you know that what are the different kinds of things you need to learn as you grow, right? In a startup, it's like, you know, tomorrow you might be you know, today you might be making product, and you just nailed product. You just got a product market fit, and you're like, अब तो मैं दुनिया जीत चुका हूँ. Like, you know, I got product market fit. And then tomorrow you go into GTM and you realize no one is buying your product so quickly. Like, you know, your GTM strategy is not sorted. Your channel is not sorted. Your unit economics is fucked up. Like, what you do, right? So in startup, practically there is no point, you know, wherein you can say that now my job is done. Okay, now I can, you know, sort of now I have learned what I have to learn, and my job is practically done. It's never going to be the case. Even let's say you know, you are a Series E company or Series F company, something like a ShareChat or a OYO or something like that. You know, still you cannot go and say that, okay, now my job is done. You just see Vijay Shekhar Sharma, right? You know, he scaled up a company so big, and now the IPO prices is down, and he's still saying that, you know, I'll not liquidate my ESOPs before I get back to the previous IPO. I mean, to the previous price, right?
Yeah.
And it's not going to be easier, right? It's you would think that it's a multi-billion-dollar company and Vijay Shekhar Sharma can relax. No,
No.
it's going to be as hard as early on. It's like the kind of hard things is going to be different, and later on it's going to be way different. But it's never going to be that straightforward and easy. Like, because your energy and your sharpness is going to reflect in the entire organization. If you are not working on your things that badly, you are the owner.
Yeah.
You're going to have to reflect that ownership mindset. Otherwise, other people why why would anyone in Paytm put in their heart and soul when they see
Exactly.
that, okay, Vijay
Uh-huh.
Shekhar Sharma is not doing that, right?
True.
So it's never going to be that easy. So it's just going to be different kind of hard. And
In-
on the work-life balance part, again, like in consulting, it's standard 12 hours or something like that. Sometimes it's chiller, 10 hours, but sometimes much worse, like 14, 16 hours. On the startup part, psychologically, you are working 24/7. Physically, how much ever you want to work, you can work.
So you're doing your startup, and generally होता क्या है कि हमारे जो personal experiences में जो problems होते हैं, generally we are trying to solve those problems and trying to build a
Yes.
company out of it. So what exactly are you doing, and वो आप जो problem solve करने की कोशिश कर रहे हो, how you encountered this? I mean, I just want to know your thought process behind it.
Yeah. I think overall it's always very helpful that you solve your own problem, because then you can sort of understand whether what you are building is going to be directionally useful to your users or not. Okay, so right now what I am working on is basically we are building a virtual project manager for engineering teams, right? What we believe is not what we believe, what we know as a matter of fact, based on our own experience and based on a lot of customer discovery calls and a lot of interactions with our customers, is that engineering teams, they spend a lot of time doing things which they don't like, in the sense all these project management stuff, when the engineers are updating things to someone like a scrum master or an agile coach, and they are updating things to someone like a VP of engineering or a senior engineering manager, someone like that, right? So these are this entire updation part, and the entire mechanisms around that, all the sort of tools people use around that, a lot of things over here is broken. And why is that the case? Is because over time people are spending so much money to solve this problem, in terms of hiring in or some kind of project managers to actually get visibility on their engineering teams, and then getting in all these tools, but ensuring that these people are using these tools and they're disciplined on something like Jira. It's very hard. So overall, this is the problem statement. Like, how can we provide VPs of engineering with better kind of visibility on their own engineering team's efforts? And second, how can we help engineering teams automate a lot of these parts of project management which are very mechanical, like following up with teams and ensuring that they update things. A lot of these things are mechanical. Preparing in reports around costing, preparing in reports around their team performance in a very, very quantitative way. A lot of these things are very mechanical. So that's the overall problem statement. Now, how we came across this is my CTO was a machine learning engineer at Zoomio. So he actually had to attend a lot of these meetings wherein a 3 hours call was there, and he's just speaking for 5 minutes, and a lot of his time was getting wasted on these follow-ups and all. My other co-founder was also doing project management over engineering pods. So his job was to actually collect on these updates and follow up with engineers and take these updates now. So from both of their experiences, we got to understand that, okay, it's a waste of everyone's time, the way in which things are currently being done. And that sort of inspired us to actually work on this problem.
What do you think कि आपने ऐसे कॉलेज में क्या की स्किल्स, मैं ऐसे 2-3 की स्किल्स के बारे में जानना चाहता हूँ जो कि आपने सीखे हैं. एंड आई मीन as a first year student, I would like to know जिसके ऊपर मैं वर्क कर सकता हूँ, so that I can land up at very good jobs, let's say, या फिर मेरे को लाइफ में लाइफ लॉन्ग हेल्प करे. वो स्किल्स क्या हो सकती हैं कुछ?
आई थिंक यार मैं थोड़ा सा मेटा लेवल इसमें बोलूंगा, लाइक बिकॉज मतलब कोई इंडिपेंडेंट स्पेसिफिक स्किल्स क्या है ये बहुत ज्यादा मैटर नहीं करता. अगर तुम देखो, ठीक है, लाइक इट माइट बी कि आज की डेट में कोई एक ज्यादा हॉट टॉपिक चल रहा है, लाइक व्हेन आई वाज इन कैंपस मशीन लर्निंग का अलग क्रेज था. मैं अभी पिछली बार ही कुछ लोगों से बात कर रहा था. आई वाज लाइक why are not sufficient people focusing on crypto? 90% of people in crypto don't understand crypto. So people from more technical background, if they get into crypto, they can do a lot of great stuff. Like there's a lot of opportunity over there. But then the problem is that that advice is not going to be relevant maybe 2 or 3 years down the line. हो सकता है आज के डेट में लोग क्रिप्टो करना फिर भी शुरू कर दें, but मतलब 3 साल down the line क्या नया चीज होगा, it's not going to be very constant. But what matters actually is that you just get from that consumer of information mode to creator of information mode. Like creator of information of any kind, like whether you're like how you're doing a YouTube channel, or someone is just painting and putting stuff on Instagram, or someone is writing some random shit code and or trying to just write random scripts and all. It does not matter what kind of stuff you're creating, but just always being in that kind of a creator mode is far more useful than being in that consumer mode. And the best, you'll automatically learn whatever you have to learn by being a creator of any kind, right? Now, you when you started off with YouTube, did you know that you will get 30,000 followers and all? Like it's not something you can predict. But then over time, you learn that okay, these are things I am doing wrong. These are things I like to do, which I'm doing less, or whatever it is, right? You then over index on what you're doing well, and try to put down your weaknesses and try to work on them, and that actually helps. So always being in that creator mode is something which is helpful. And then the second thing is know that there are so many opportunities that it's not like you need to follow those opportunities only which is very popular at that time, right? Or hota kya hai, like this is a very good Peter Thiel ka analogy on this, that there's a very small door जिसमें सारे लोग ऐसे घुसने के लिए एकदम पीछे पड़ गए, and there is a large gate, vast gate, जहाँ जो एकदम खाली पड़ा हुआ है, जहाँ पे कोई नहीं घुस रहा है. And unfortunately, this is a massive problem for people like us, very privileged people from IITs who think that we know what we are doing, like who think that we understand, we are smart enough to crack the right problems. But we are actually subject to this problem far more, because what we see is कि हमारे सारे peers जा रहे हैं machine learning कर रहे हैं, हम भी machine learning करेंगे. सारे peers जा रहे हैं crypto कर रहे हैं, हम भी crypto करेंगे. And that is not a healthy practice. Because of this, इतना competition एक जगह पे आ जाएगा, and that opportunity in that space is going to be overeaten by competition. On the other side, there is some place that the competition है ही नहीं. Like it's a open vast ocean. Like why don't you just enter over there? And there are always more number of opportunities of that second kind than of that first kind. It's not like कि सारे लोगों को machine learning ही करके अपना career बनाना है या फिर वो सब करना ही है, right? So always try to find that intersection of different skills. So let's say if someone is into crypto, and crypto में बहुत craze आ गया, सब campus में crypto करने लग गए, then you should think about what is that underserved opportunity in crypto which is going to be very valuable in future, or very, very valuable even in present. And they may discover the design, like all these crypto products are so badly designed for customers that they should learn how to design them well. And that can be a very good selling point. Like how there are very few people who are very good at design and who are very good at crypto. You can become a very great asset for anyone who is trying to make consumer apps for regular folks in crypto. I'm just giving a random example, but the point is there are so many such opportunities in plain sight, जहाँ पे like people are not going over there because they think that it is uncool. Less people are pursuing it, and वो herd mentality के चक्कर में they are doing something else. It's not that fruitful actually.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean थोड़ा सा ये safe playing वाला भी mindset आ जाता है in people like us. I think so.
Yeah.
है ना कि वहाँ जहाँ पे ज्यादा भीड़ है वहाँ जाएंगे तो जनरली लग जाएगा. Because I have seen कि placement में भी हम लोग people सब लोग भसड़ में जा रहे हैं सॉफ्टवेयर डेवलपर के लिए. Although वहाँ jobs है but competition भी उसी हिसाब से है. And
yes. And that is also true about consulting, by the way. So there's so many people who are trying for consulting, right? अभी अगर तुम देखो in my batch and before, because there were so few people being hired in consulting, the number of people who actually really tried for consulting was not that big. Like उस time पे मुझे लगता था कि this is very competitive. Like there are so many people who are trying. But if I actually see the real competition during my time was practically 20 to 30 people, and वो 20 to 30 में से 4 या 5 select होते थे. ठीक है, because उस time से BCG और McKinsey आती थी. So that was a real competition. अभी क्या है कि like because there are so many roles, like there are practically 50-60 people who are really striving for consulting, and there are about 15-20 roles. Now what has happened is कि because 50-60 people strive कर रहे हैं, now there are 200 people who are actually wanting to strive for consulting, and they are doing case studies but they are not putting in their entire heart and effort कि like वो top 15 में पहुंच जाए या even top 60 में पहुंच जाए. So it's wasting a lot of people's time, because अगर कोई वो level पे है, मतलब 150 या 200 number पे है, and they are striving so badly, and they are not even entering in the top 60 or top 15. It's not worth their effort. Like it's not that much. And even though all these platforms give a very, very good starting point, always having a long-term mindset on your career is more useful than having a short-term optimizing for your first job or first role or first package. It's never that good, because it depends on what people's aim is. Like if someone wants to get into MBA, of course, optimizing for consulting is fabulous. If someone's aim is for getting into a master's in machine learning or something like that, getting into machine learning role is going to be very valuable. Let's say you get into BCG for the first time. Now you're for your second job, okay, let's say still there are hiring companies and recruiter firms which help you. Then for your third job, what you are going to do? Fourth job, what you're going to do? Like how you're going to find your 10th job, jahan pe like you are in a very senior role. How let's say you become a VP of sales, how are you going to become a CEO? Like there are so many such dimensions to this problem, right? And what actually happens is that after a point you are on your own and you have to find your opportunities on your own. If you do that early on, and people actually do that in campus, right? When they do for internship. So वो उसी को एक बड़े scale पे करना है. If you do that early on, you learn those skills early on, then you will develop your own confidence that you can nail down jobs and nail down opportunities on your own without a lot of external support, and you are valuable to the society. You'll find it yourself.
I just want to know your life as a consultant, because that is something कि बहुत ज़्यादा बात नहीं होती या फिर उसके ऊपर कंटेंट नहीं है. I just wanted to know कि if possible, can you tell about some of the problems you have worked for the clients, as a consultant, and कुछ उसके ऊपर interesting stories हो तो.
Yeah. So I think when I joined BCG, my first project was more around digitalization for an industrial goods company. So like what I'm trying to achieve right now for engineering managers, software engineering managers and all, was same काम I was trying to do for this industrial goods company at that point in time. And the interesting part, there's a very interesting story I have, like of it's something which I really admire about my team at that time. I was very new into consulting, and I was just trying to catch up things. Like it was just 1 or 2 months for me inside BCG at that time. My manager's manager, who was principal at that time, he actually so the chief digital officer, we were doing a digitalization project, and the chief digital officer at that time, he was going from our client location to back to his house, which was about 2.5 hour journey, and my place and his place was somewhere nearby in Bombay. So he actually asked me to go with the chief digital officer, who was a key client for our team, and on that journey for about 2.5 hours, and drop him to his house, and then I'll go back to my place. Okay. So it was I was just 1.5 months into consulting, and I was trusted with one of the most important clients for us at that point. Like he was the one who was actually paying BCG money from his budget to work on that project. So he was super crucial. And that was the time I literally felt the amount of trust consulting firms actually lay down to their junior most staff, right? Associate, at an associate level, if you can trust with a 2.5 hour ride with your most senior most client, that's a very big thing. Which he did, and it was a very, very wonderful conversation. We actually stopped down in our journey, and he wanted to drink tea, so we had tea and samosa, and he chatted around my life, I chatted around his life. So he was he had stints across a lot of MNCs, and then he ended up in this role, and was just talking about his own journey. And I actually got a lot of my work done. So there were some things which are pending on our BC side. He just made 2-3 calls and so resolved all those issues. So it was a very productive journey for both of us in terms of work as well. And I really felt that BCG gave a lot of responsibilities on us. So that was more on the client interaction side, which is something which is very rare across different roles. Now on the second part, like if you ask me, like on the work side, I think there was one case wherein, I was working with the sales team of a company, and the company was struggling because of COVID. Their sales had gone, practically to zero. And the competitive firm had just fired around 1,000 people at that point. And this is a very typical consulting work, that you go into a company, they're in a bad shape, you fire people, and then people in that company are complaining in that this consulting firm is so bad. And this is a very typical consulting project, which was very popular in 80s and 90s and all. Like consulting firms are very badly reputed for firing people. Now what happened was, our client was very, very much against firing, and they were like, solve this problem without, taking such drastic measures. Like, how can you get back to the right amount of sales, and how can you, get money without, just distorting this entire system. So at that point in time, what happened was that, we were working, sort of day in and day out with the client teams, and they knew the gravity of the situation because the sales were down. And for the first time in consulting, I got sort of a ownership role, like in the sense, in consulting, it's typically an advisory role, because your suggestions are still subject to your clients, sort of your clients still, sort of filter them up, and do not implement practically everything which you talk about, right? But over here in this part, our client was like too much trusting of us, because it was very, very drastic times, and they had their own constraints. Okay, you cannot do XYZ, but then, apart from that, whatever you want to do, get back to the right sales. And at that time, I was like, I really felt that, consulting firms also have some real world impact on the lives of people we are working with, in the sense, it's not just advisory, you do have some ownership. So that was, these are the two experiences which actually are very close to my heart. One is people trusting you with so much responsibility early on. And second is, your clients actually trusting you as a company to help them, move things when they're in a really, really bad shape.
Just wanted to ask you this question कि what if, let's say, मेरे को consultancy कल को join करनी है without going into IIMs. So how can I do that? Or for someone like me, जो कि software engineer है, IT से just pass out है, so what he or she can do?
The scope for product management for the next decade, in my opinion, is far more than that for consulting. Okay, and why I'm saying this is because there is always waves coming across different industries, right? Before 2008 financial crisis, finance was the hottest role. After 2008, in India, consulting became the hottest role. And now product management is going into that direction. It's still not the hottest role, but it's going in that direction. Why is that the case? Is because everything is going to be tech driven in future. Like, it's bound to happen. Even if you ask me, the consulting firms may be like, there are so much digitalization projects going on, and so much work on these directions which is going on, that directionally even consulting work is going to go more towards product management. Now, still, if you want to end up into consulting, you feel that it's going to be far more rewarding for you. Then, actually, the most linear path is doing an MBA. Like, there are ways to do some outside consulting roles for BCG, and these kind of roles are still there. But you can definitely try for those kind of roles. A lot of people from IT Kanpur actually get into those kind of roles, wherein they do a 1 year or 6 months or 9 months stint for a particular case at BCG. It's practically like a full consulting work in itself. But then what actually matters is that, whether in the long term, if you want to do into project management, product management, does it make sense to do that? And in my opinion, it does not make sense, because core consulting work is not actually very closely linked to product management. If you are actually making products, that's far more closely linked to product management. And this is something which I would have actually followed as an advice for myself. If you ask me, like, if I was not doing a startup, I would have definitely wanted to end up into some kind of product management role, because I genuinely believe that there are very, very few good product managers in India. And even though a lot of people are entering into product management, what they actually do is project management. What they actually do is ensure timelines are being adhered to, and those kind of stuff, right?
Exactly.
So quality product managers, and this is something a lot of my founder mentors